Okay, perfect. Well, welcome everyone this morning. Happy to have a couple of guest speakers in session. What I'm going to do first is actually start with a land acknowledgement. So we begin this gathering by acknowledging the land on which we gather, which is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. So with that, I'm going to allow our two guest speakers here to introduce themselves. We have Erica Harper and Brandon Gomes. Erica, I'll start with you first if you want to give a little self-introduction and a bit of a background about yourself and where you are today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks so much for having us. So yes, my name is Erica. My background is in marketing and communications. I graduated from St. FX University on the east coast of Canada in 2018. And after graduation, I took a job in digital marketing, worked there for just under a year, got some great experience, but like a lot of people who end up in sustainability eventually, I wanted more from my job. I wanted more purpose. And that actually led me to Brock's Master of Sustainability program in 2019. I was in the co-op stream and I conducted my major research paper on the corporate social responsibility practices from Canadian grocery players. And that was very interesting. I've always been super passionate about food and creating a more sustainable food system. And so that research brought me then after graduation to working in the food industry, kind of at the intersection of food, sustainability, technology. So I currently work as a marketing manager for an app called Too Good To Go. And I'm responsible for all things digital, including social media, customer relationship management, website content, paid user acquisition. And if you don't know what Too Good To Go is, it's a global company. It's actually available in 17 countries. We launched in Canada about a year ago. We're in 12 Canadian cities, and it's an app that helps everybody fight food waste. So how it works is that if you're a business that has leftover food at the end of the day, because demand is very difficult to predict, there's unfortunately, a lot of restrictions around what can be donated. So our app kind of steps in to help that surplus food from local businesses be sold to our app to customers like you and I for 1/3 of the price. So it's a very cool concept that helps businesses recoup costs on food that would have been wasted and helps customers like you and I save money on really delicious food. So it's been very interesting. And I've been there just over almost a year and a half now, and making an impact at work is very important to me. And we know that food waste directly contributes to global greenhouse gases, about 10% of global greenhouse gases, which is pretty incredible. And the aviation industry is only 1%. So for me, it's super exciting to be in a role that I know I'm having an impact every day and making a difference.
Amazing. Thanks, Erica. I had no idea about that stat of the 10%. That's pretty remarkable. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Brandon, I'll let you have the floor, but I will just share my screen, and I know you have a couple of slides you'd like to share. So
yeah, we can just keep to that first slide there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so again, thanks Ryan and for having us here. Kind of hard to follow Erica after that, but I'll try to do my best. So yeah, my name's Brandon Gomes. So I went to Ryerson University, graduated there with a BCom, sort of majored in business management with a minor in marketing and a little bit of international marketing. Wanted to do a little bit more of the international business, but that didn't pan out for me, but that's okay. I've worked in a variety of different industries, insurance, paper circulation, office supplies, print, label, packaging. A lot of my sustainability focus, I guess you'd say, I never really did any sort of educational piece to it. It's sort of everything that I've sort of accumulated throughout my years, but it sort of started, I'm going to say about 10, 15 years ago, kind of, realizing what's out there and sort of having a passion for it. So some of the companies I've worked for in the past, and they've all been sort of large companies until recently. So Manulife Financial started out actually in the insurance industry of all things, but then ended up working for Staples on the B2B side, FedEx Office, which is the Canadian print division to FedEx, and then now currently Labelcraft Products. So the latter three there, Staples, FedEx, and Labelcraft, I did take a liking to the sustainability piece of it, and that's from my standpoint more looking at what can we do as a company as a whole to be a little bit more sustainable, and we can kind of dive into that a little bit later. But most recently, I was with Labelcraft Products, sort of jumped over to them about 5 years ago, and the reason for that is it's a label manufacturer. Labels don't sound too exciting, and really they're not, but labels are everywhere. What's really exciting about what the owner did there is, from a sustainability standpoint, 30,000 trailer loads of label liner. So that's the backing of a label. So every time you use a label, there's the half of that label ends up in our landfill because it's not recyclable, because it's got that heavy coating of silicone on it. So what the owner at the company did is actually developed a release liner that back in the label, it's actually made of 100% recycled paper and is recyclable. So it was sort of the first in the world. He's got a patent on it, US, Canada, Europe. So that sort of attracted me, just because it's something that's affecting our industry or our world, but no one has a solution for it, right? So that's where sort of I'm currently. Always been in sales, love it. So yeah, I don't know if that helps, gives you guys what it is.
Excellent. Thanks, Brandon. I love the red thread there, right? The environmental, I guess, awareness, or to help the environment in some capacity that you both share and have a passion for. And funny how, two very different industries can kind of have that same red thread. So thanks very much. Throughout the to this morning's session, if any of our students, and Marilyn, you as well, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute, raise a hand, and we'll address them. This is more of an open discussion than it is a formal presentation, so I'd like to keep things very very flowing here. I did have a couple questions for Brandon and Erica. So the first one I had is, so each of you obviously have experience in working in an industry where sustainability matters, as you just shared. I guess just personal thoughts on what drives you to be attracted to this type of work in your particular field and area of expertise, and what might lie ahead for students, again, that have just graduated or looking for a co-op placement. What can they perhaps expect to find out there in the sustainability world? Erica, I'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah. So I've worked a couple jobs, between summer jobs and just after my undergrad, where, they weren't directly related to sustainability. And what got me really, attracted and interested in the field of sustainability was actually a David Attenborough documentary. And unlike a lot of environmental kind of climate change, if you will, documentaries, it left me actually with a sense of hope that humans can actually do something to help if we act quickly and together. So those were two things that really stuck with me, which eventually had me Googling sustainability education, things like that. Eventually, again, brought me to Brock, which I'm super thankful for my experience at Brock. It was really wonderful. And now working for a company, of course, that directly reduces CO2 emissions and reduces food waste, gives me a real purpose in my job. And that's something that was really attractive to me. Is you spend 40 hours at your job a week minimum, and you want to be happy, you want to believe in the company, and you want to share the same values as the company, and you want to believe in your work. So for me, I genuinely am, I know a lot of people say this, but I really am excited to wake up in the morning and make a difference in our local communities. And I wasn't getting that from non-sustainability related roles. So it's something that I truly do value now in my role. And I would say, in terms of what lies ahead, it really wasn't that long ago. Because of the pandemic, it feels like decades, but it wasn't that long ago that I was in your shoes in the master's program at Brock about two years ago, looking for co-ops, and then eventually graduating, looking for a full-time job. And the biggest takeaway from that experience that I had there was to not limit yourself, to just sustainability related jobs, right? So I was Googling, sustainability specialist, sustainability research, sustainability this. I wanted so badly to have that tied to my title because that's what I had studied. And I thought that's the natural next step. But, once I stopped limiting myself, then I kind of opened it up to more things that, roles that fit my background, marketing communications, but for a company whose sustainability practices, beliefs, pillars, I really believed in. And so if you can kind of, stop limiting your search to just sustainability and open it up to, for example, my job right now is a marketing manager. I'm on the B2C side, but I deal with sustainability communications every single day. But that's not in my title. So definitely be sure to open your search up a little bit. And as long as you work for a company who you believe in their work, you like their sustainability practices, you're already in the door. You'll eventually, hopefully, be able to move into a sustainability role down the line. But I would definitely say that as long as you align with the company's mission and sustainability pillars, then you'll be proud and excited to work there.
Amazing. Thanks, Erica. I love the story about the non-linear career path and how you kind of eventually found it without that direct path. And Brandon, I'll go over to you now. Speaking of non-linear, I think you're a great example of this. But yeah, what has attracted you to where you are now, and any thoughts you can share with our students about what might lie ahead?
Yeah, so I think Erica kind of nailed it on the head there, just in terms of when you're out there looking for that role. Again, I'm a good example of it. I'm not looking for. I've never had a sustainability title, and not necessarily you need to look for that sustainability title. I mean, again, looking at the company, their values, their pillars. For me, I sort of kind of stepped into roles and had a passion for it, and helped the companies that I worked for, be a little bit more sustainable. I'll give a good example at Staples on the B2B side. I was part of their sustainability committee, and that was something that we sort of developed. And the reason for that is, again, trying to make sure that everything that we do for our customers and internally, externally, how does that impact our business, right? So a good example is, this is going back many years, but corrugate or cardboard, wasn't an issue back then, but it is kind of an issue now after the pandemic. But you deliver boxes. What do you do with those boxes after? Typically, people would just put it into recycling. But we can reuse those boxes, right? So it's looking at small things like that have an effect, right? In terms of what sort of drives me to it is, again, looking at the company's values and pillars, and if you're able to give your input and see the results of it down the road, you're going to continue to do that, right? In terms of this industry, I think it's a great industry to be in, or have that sustainability backing, only because there's a lot of things happening today that maybe 10, 15 years ago, when I was out there in the real world, it was sort of, people were starting to scratch at it, right? And what I mean by that is, people always, back then it was, hey, we're gonna do something with our lights, or we're gonna try to reduce our waste. But sustainability today is a lot more than that. It's how do you reduce your carbon footprint? What kind of products are you purchasing? Are they coming from offshore? Are they coming locally? I mean, there's a lot more involved. And I think a lot more people are looking into being a little bit more sustainable in their business practices, which is great. But the education piece and sorry, just having conversations is very important. I think that's a lot of things that are happening today, is that conversation around sustainability. So, for the students that are in this program, it's perfect.
Thank you. Thanks, Brandon. You touched on something. You mentioned being part of the company's sustainability committee. Just wondering, both you guys, Erica and Brandon, is that something that is you would think is more common now for almost all companies, again, with a big, large enough footprint? And second to that, if we have a student that is interviewing for a co-op opportunity or a new grad opportunity, is it taboo to ask that question if they have a sustainability committee? Let's say they're, like Erica's path, interviewing for a marketing role, but they want to share their passions. Is that something that's a bit taboo, or are we now at the point where it's commonplace to have a committee at a company? I'll let you both chime in on that.
I mean, I don't think it's a taboo question. I think that shows initiative. That shows the fact that you have a passion for something and you're willing to share it with the company, right? It's a great question to ask because some companies might not have a sustainability committee, but that might spark a conversation around it and give that individual, that student, that upper edge because they're thinking outside the box.
Yeah, thanks. Well said. Yeah, Erica, your comments on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree on what you said, Brandon. I think also it shows, of course, initiative, and also it shows an added value that you might provide to the team or the company as a whole. You come in with, fresh new ideas that they may be looking for, whether or not they already have a committee in place. So I definitely think bringing that up is super valuable and definitely something that you should do. If you can't find a sustainability group that they have online, for example, when they talk about their pillars, definitely ask about it and kind of weave it into. You can also show that you've done research on the sustainability side, which also helps kind of set you apart.
Amazing. Thanks very much. I love that taking that extra initiative to, again, set yourself apart. Shift focus a bit here. I want to talk about the wonderful world of networking, which can be a joy for some and a pain in the rear for others. But that's okay. It's important. It's part of life. We all have to develop our skill sets to be better at it, or to start at it. So, Brandon, I'll start with you. Any best practices on how students should network to find the next co-op or full-time opportunity, and any groups, organizations, associations that you would encourage them to join? And
Yeah.
Brandon, let me know if you want me to
Yeah.
flash the slide that you had, which was, I think, great.
Yeah, I've got some resources on there, and we can throw that up. So for me, I think, I mean, I'm in sales. I've been in sales for 15 plus years, so I'm kind of that outgoing person. Networking to me is important, just in regards to reaching out to other individuals, like-minded individuals, learning from others, and it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that's in sustainability. It could be anyone out there, right? For me, I learn from everyone in various roles, and I think that's the key. So sorry. So I've got some resources up there. For me, LinkedIn is personally, I would say, my best networking option out there, outside of actually physically being with other people in a networking environment. So if you use LinkedIn, I mean, again, sorry, it's a great resource. I've got some items up there. So sustainability packaging network. And again, a lot of my sustainability is on the packaging side. So again, there's a variety of different other options out there. You just, again, research it. There's a bunch of different podcasts. So there's one sustainability packaging podcast with Corey Connors. So he's in the packaging industry. I've actually been on his podcast talking about our labels. Again, podcasts are great to learn about other individuals, other industries. You find out what's out there. Another podcast is the awesome People of Packaging with Adam Peake. Another, again, a lot of packaging podcasts, but they have other individuals or industry individuals on talking about whatever it might be. Sustainability professionals, there is a group on LinkedIn for that. Again, and I was saying, just connect with others that have the same interest as you. And again, it's not connecting to try to sell them something, or for me, it's generally reaching out to someone to learn what they do. And really, at the end of the day, it may not be something that you're going to use today, but you've built a connection with someone that 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, you might reach out to them, or they might reach out to you because you guys have a common interest, and that could be anything that's out there. You just don't know what the future holds, right? And then, yeah, so just a couple other, and we can kind of talk about those ones later, but just a couple of organizations. Again, there's a bunch of different organizations that you can join, be part of as a student. A lot of them have either discounted rates or allow you to attend industry events for free. And I think that's a great opportunity for you to go out there. And if you're not that individual that likes to be up in the front and talking to people, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But these industry events actually gives you an opportunity to go and listen and see what's out there and see if there's something that sort of sparks your interest. And if you're able to start up a conversation or even just take something from it, I mean, you're ahead of the game. Hopefully that answers it.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan. I didn't know about the podcast. And part of our job as talent partnership consultants at Brock with Co-op is to share networking opportunities or how to network with students. And you know what? Podcast just totally slipped my mind. So thanks for putting another tool in my tool belt there. Appreciate that. Erica, over to you in terms of networking, best practices, stuff you've come across that have been home runs for you, and where you might direct students.
For sure. Yeah. So as you said, and we all know, networking is super important. And a tip that I actually wish I knew or had heard of when I was searching for a co-op, searching for a full-time job after graduation is using the LinkedIn search function and typing in, specific keywords like hiring co-op, because hiring managers will post, I'm hiring for co-ops for 2023, let's say, and then they'll have a list of the jobs, the job descriptions that they're hiring for. So you can do that, and then you can actually filter through industry, company, locations, that kind of thing, to really see what people are posting about in terms of new job postings. And that could be, hiring marketing manager, hiring sustainability. So you could kind of, see a whole list of what's happening in the hiring world. And of course, hiring managers want their job to be easy. They want to be, they want to hire someone great for the role. So I definitely recommend, being bold, applying for those roles, reaching directly out to the hiring manager once you've done so, and, explain that you've, reached out and why you'd be a great fit for the role, and see if they have potentially 15 minutes, of their time to meet with you, learn more about the role. And that really is your time to kind of shine and tell them why you'd be perfect for the role. And when it comes to networking, the most important thing is to be prepared. If you're asking, an individual for a meeting, a coffee chat, even though I know a coffee chat sounds more informal, they don't all have to be super formal. But the most important thing is that if you're asking for the conversation, you're asking for their time, you need to come prepared to kind of run the conversation, right? So you can't just show up to a coffee chat and then expect them to run it. You've asked for their time for a specific reason. So it's really important to come with questions, showing that you understand the industry, or showing that you have questions about the industry and about their work and what they do and the company. So I think that's a really important thing. I think a lot of people jump to networking. Oh, well, I'll schedule a meeting with this person, but don't really think about what they would like, to ask, or how they would like to shape the conversation. And so I think it's really important to, I've been on both sides of that. So it's important to really make sure that you come with a plan when you're asking somebody for their precious time. And lastly, I would say a really great group on LinkedIn that I was part of and still am part of is Connecting Environmental Professionals, CEP. I believe they have several chapters. I follow the Toronto one on LinkedIn. They host events with leaders in the sustainability industry, which can kind of help you identify, where or which industry you'd like to fall into eventually. Then you get to meet, leaders in that industry, ask questions. They always have a question period, which is always great. Discover new companies that you might want to work for. And attending, their events got me exposed to different industries, such as the grocery industry, the packaging, consulting. So I really appreciated that.
Amazing. Thank you. I know Marilyn's got a question. Before I come to Marilyn, Erica, you mentioned a couple of things that caught my attention there. One, be bold. And two, meeting with purpose. So again, it's a message we stress at the co-op office, that if you're lucky enough to secure that coffee chat or that informal, I have a question chat, yeah, come prepared, right? Do your research, and it'll show again the level of professionalism and maturity you have going in. And I like being bold. I think our students should go into their working world with the mentality of nothing to lose as long as you're professional about it, and if you go with that attitude, I think only good things can happen. Marilyn, feel free to unmute and ask away.
I thought both of you gave some really great advice, and I would also reiterate, like that's yes, excellent advice, Erica, on coming prepared, because it can be quite frustrating when you're asked for time and then you're left to be the one to to drive the bus kind of thing. And so it's nice when people come prepared. The other thing that you both of you made me think of a couple times was this using social media platforms and other apps or like websites in general. For example, I've always found it to be a lot of fun to use sites. Be Meaningful is one. Aluda, new grad job search is another one where you can actually, like Aluda, for example, I put in that I have a degree as a Master of Science, because remember, we don't always have Master of Sustainability listed. So you could list, okay, I have a Master of Arts or Master of Science. And then my field of study, the one that comes closest to sustainability science, is environmental. And then you can at least see who are the employers hiring in that broad field. And it includes co-op positions as well. So you get, the typical degrees recruited, typical starting salary, the opportunities available, and it just gives you a listing of like the best employers, top employers, based on that degree background, as well as a dollar value that you can expect from that kind of position. There's other ones, Good Work Cabin. I can Indeed, of course, I can put some of these in the chat room, but I think they're really fun to explore kind of both directions, searching, but also then finding out, kind of going backward in terms of from that position, what degree did you have, etc. The other piece is it helps you understand this issue that all of you have raised, that not all positions have the word sustainability in them, right?
Mhm.
They might have environmental or environment or something like that. So it also shows you that the language isn't a perfect match. So you could explain to a potential employer, let's say you're applying for a position in co-op or otherwise, and you have a cover letter, you can say, while my degree was not in environmental studies, it's instead in sustainability science. However, they share similarities in that you learn and are trained to perform X, Y, and Z. So that for those who don't really understand how sustainability sciences kind of come out of environmental studies, right? You could explain that in a way that allows them to appreciate what background and training you come to that position with, right? So I'll throw some of those into the chat, but I think those are great opportunities too. So social media and also some of these other platforms to get more information and get the language around how employers are framing these positions.
Yeah, thank you, Marilyn. Yeah, please do. Please throw it in the chat, and I'll be sure to capture this these items and put it together in more of a formal document thereafter. So thank you. I think Marilyn actually jumped in at a good time because she's helped me transition to my next topic. Before I start, I want to, it's going to be about that non-linear career path. And so, Marilyn made mention, or maybe you did, Erica, about, sometimes you're doing that job search and the word sustainable or sustainability is not to be found when you're looking for a certain role. I came across this figure. I found it quite interesting. So we look at Loblaws, so the parent company of quite a few grocery stores. A large Canadian company like Loblaws has over 16,400 employees across all stores and all head office levels. Any guesses as to how many employees they have dedicated to sustainability?
Gonna say
Brandon,
5. I'm gonna
5 for
say 5.
Brandon? Yeah, Erica, what about you?
I want to say 3.
3. So the answer is 1.5. So one full time, and I think they hire a co-op student every now and then. So 1.5. So it just goes to I guess, the point of, a company like Loblaws who you expect to have. I mean, when someone asked me that question, I thought the number was, 15 or 20. But even to not have 3 or 5 as our guest speakers are guessing, makes you wonder, right? And I hope that the number will rise as we have a more of a focus on sustainability. But for our students on the call, that should shock you, but also give you hope that the number will grow. And if you were to get a job, let's say at a Loblaws or apply for one in a head office role, I mean, again, Marilyn said it best, right? Make your intentions known, share your passions in that interview process or once you get that job, and see if you can make that imprint, that footprint a little bit more stronger when you get there. So I'll circle back now to the question I had, and that was about working in an industry that might be outside of your comfort zone. Um, I guess the question is, I think you both have done it. If you haven't, what might be the advice for students to maybe take that risk and see where the path takes them, while maybe focusing on their desires to work in a sustainability type of role?
Go ahead, Erica.
Brandon. Okay, we'll start with Erica.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Loblaws because it's very, aligned with what I did at Brock, of course. I did research on kind of the main players in the Canadian grocery industry. That's what I felt was, kind of my comfort zone. And, now knowing that, there's about 1.5 sustainability employees makes sense as to why that didn't work out for me. But again, that's kind of the whole thing. That was my comfort zone. I ended up taking a job for a tech company, an app. I had never worked in tech before. Can't say that I had like a huge passion for that side of things. So it was definitely outside of my comfort zone. And I think when you're spending, 40 plus, let's say, hours a week working, it's very reasonable to be hesitant about wanting, about getting a job, let's say, out of your comfort zone. It's totally, totally reasonable. I definitely was. It is a lot of time, and you want to make sure that you're happy at work, of course. And so I would say, I think, again, I'm an advocate for doing things outside of your comfort zone, but before you do it, kind of two questions that I asked myself and that I suggest you ask yourself as well if you are looking for, something outside of your comfort zone is, first of all, if you believe in the company's mission. I talked about that a lot earlier, but it's so important to really believe in the company's mission, and whether the role that you're potentially taking is a role wherein you can learn, where you can grow your skill sets, you can learn something new, and you can apply what you've learned, let's say at Brock, into that role as well, and provide value. So I think as long as you're working for a company or industry, even though it's outside of your comfort zone, if it's something that you really believe in, you align with the values and the mission of the company. Again, you are spending a lot of your time there. So if you don't believe in what the company is doing, it's very difficult to feel passionate about what you're doing. And lastly, if you feel like it's a place where you can grow throughout the interview process, a lot of opportunities to ask about growth opportunities, that's really, really important, and making you, excited and passionate about working there. So it's definitely worth it. Take it from me. It was definitely worth it for me. But I would say definitely ask yourself those two questions about growth and alignment with the company mission to make sure it's the right move for you.
Thanks, Erica. Before I go to Brandon, how would a student phrase that in terms of the language used to express their interest in sustainability, even though the job they are hired for, interviewing for, may not totally align? What's, I don't know if you've gone through it yourself personally, but what might the language be, to make sure that the interest in the job they're applying for is still there, but letting the employer know about their passions?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part. I know we'll get to interviewing kind of tips later, but it's a big part of the interview is making sure that you have questions, right? And so I think if you talk about your passion for the role and what you can accomplish, within the role that you're applying to, but you can also mention, this is something I'm passionate about, but I'm also, have a background and passion, let's say, for sustainability. And I'm curious, I've been thinking about, 3 to 5 year timeline. I see myself, I really see myself at your company. Are there any opportunities for, eventual roles on the sustainability team? Do you have an impact team? Do you have something like that where, I can maybe learn from people on that team? And, do you have any open roles there eventually that you see that team growing and that I could potentially join? Is that something that is possible once I gain the experience in this role if I am hired? I think something along those lines could be something that is that is helpful and shows that you see yourself long term at that company. Maybe you wouldn't do that on the very first interview, but if you get a second interview and show that you kind of see yourself at that company, and that you kind of have a plan, is always a good idea.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Brandon, over to you in terms of getting outside the box, outside the comfort zone, and any I guess words of encouragement or wisdom you want to share with our students in that realm.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, it's I'm a big believer in taking risks within reason. I kind of have grown up that way. In life, there's a lot of things that are thrown at you, and how you get up and keep going. That sort of defines you, right? In terms of looking for that ideal job, are you going to hit that that dream job right off the bat? Maybe not, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? For me, I think getting out there, looking at different companies, like Erica said, that you share the same values, same pillars, all of that, the building blocks, and you can see yourself working there. That's awesome, because you can take a lot of information and experience from that, and you may be there for 5 years, 10 years, maybe 2 years. Nothing wrong with that. You're going to take that information. Again, you got to be able to look at it, in the future. Where can I go? What can I learn? What can I take from this company, right? And I think in life, and after graduating and whatever it might be, you want to put that education to use, but you also want to get the experience within companies. Every company, the way I look at it, is every company is sort of built like a house, right? So everyone's got the building blocks, and you put up your frame, you put up your bricks, but the interior is always going to be different, right? So, most companies will operate the same way, if you will, from the outside, but internally they may do things a little bit differently, right? And if you're able to take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, you gain a lot of you'll gain a lot of experience that way. So don't, like Erica said, don't shy away from a position because it's not sustainability related. Ask the questions. I think that's very important. If you can see yourself working there, show them the interest. Show them, hey, I feel like I'm perfect for the role because of X, Y, and Z. I'm also very interested to learn more about your XYZ profiles or thoughts. Again, showing interest in a company shows them that you are, again, interested, and you could be a long-term candidate or a long-term employee with them.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Brandon. We kind of entered the topic of those conversations in an interview or once you've landed that job, but I guess just taking a step or two back, once you land that first interview, and this could apply to any program, but I always like to ask this question because I think everyone on this call could use some refreshers, reminders, tips, best practices when it comes to successfully interviewing. Yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on your own experiences looking back. If you can share any lessons learned about interviews, and what if you remember a great one that you landed, what was that tipping point for you?
Yeah, so I would say, again, it goes back to something that Erica touched on, is sort of being prepared. You need to understand, you need to research the company, just don't go in there with nothing. But the one thing, I mean, you got to practice, and you got to know your questions and answers, and have someone, ask you questions so you can respond to them. And those are things that everyone does. The one thing that I would suggest, or that I have done in the past, is you need to take it a step further. You need to make yourself stand out from those other candidates, right? You need to make a lasting impression, or you need to impress that hiring manager. So a couple of things that I've done in the past, and I'll give you two, and I continue, and I will continue to do these. Is so after that, maybe you have that first initial interview, which is great. Send a thank you email. Everyone does that, right? After that second interview or third interview, depending on how far the interview process goes, I always have written a thank you note. So just to go to the dollar store, simple. grab some thank you cards, write, hey, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it. Couple of points, put 2 points in there about the role, the position, your experience. And you can do it 2 ways. You can either throw it in the mail or you can just leave it with reception. I prefer leaving it with reception because that way it's there and they'll get it. So that's one thing that will make you stand out from someone else, because I don't think a lot of people do that. In my career as a manager, I've hired multiple people. Sorry, I've hired multiple people, and I've only had one person ever leave me a note or a letter or whatever you want to call it. And then the second piece to that was, depending on what the role is, I've typically done a PowerPoint presentation of the first 30, 60, 90 days of what I expect myself to do in that role. So again, in that interview process, you're asking the questions, you're understanding what they're looking for, what you can do, what your skills are. A day later, send them a 30, 60, 90-day plan of what you expect yourself as a candidate for that position to do in that role. So if you're able to, again, it shows initiative, it shows that you ask the right questions, you've listened to them, you understand where they want to see this position go. So those would be my 2 things.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, the thank you note, the handwritten stuff, right? We, in the virtual world that we live in, I think that's a lost art, and I think the impact is heavy if people can start thinking that way. Erica, any thoughts, comments on that?
Yes, that was phenomenal advice. Completely agree with all those. So important. This is probably talked about a lot in the co-op course, but I just can't emphasize enough how many situational questions are usually asked in interviews, at least the ones that I have done. So really come prepared with situations that you can, really relate to the role. They'll start with, tell me a time when you solved a problem or you were proud of something you accomplished in a team setting. In school, you do a lot of group projects. So even if you didn't have a job where you worked in a team setting, let's say, you can always bring it back to school projects. So come prepared with things that, you're proud of, a time that was quite difficult, but you found a solution. Things like that are really, I know people talk about it so often, but they really do continue to come up in interviews time and time again. So definitely be prepared to demonstrate how how your experience in the past really will apply to this role and how you can help solve problems or contribute to the team in a way. And I think one thing that it can be difficult for some people, I definitely struggled with this, is being comfortable articulating your accomplishments, your successes can sometimes be difficult, especially when you're just starting out. Maybe you had a great success in a leadership position and you're not sure, if that's something you should bring up. Definitely bring that up, right? Like, you have limited experience as a student, but it's so important to bring in that experience either way. They know that you're a student, they know that you're just graduating or going for a co-op. They're not going to expect you to have, done these wild things for big companies, right? So definitely bring in the experience that you have as a student, whether it's volunteer, leadership, summer jobs, and bring that in. And even if they don't ask a question directly about that experience, weave it into your answers. They won't always directly ask you, what is something you're very proud of, but if they ask you, how did you solve a problem? Maybe you can weave that in, and then it comes with the solution that you came up with. One of the last points would be, I know, again, from personal experience, that interviews can cause stress, very normal. But I think one of the important things to help ease the stress, it helps me at least, is to really think about these interviews as a conversation, right? So yes, it can be stressful, but really think about it as a way that the interviewer is trying to understand if you're the right fit, but you're also trying to see if this company is the right fit for you. You're scoping that out. And so the way that you do that is, as I mentioned before, is to always ask questions at the end of an interview. It could be a way, there are a couple ways to do it. The one way is to demonstrate that, you've done extra research and have knowledge on the product or service that they're offering, for example, or the mission, by asking, let's say, clarification questions or something like that. Would be a great way to demonstrate that you've kind of gone the extra mile. And the other one would be to ask, the interviewer themselves, how did you get into this industry? How did you get to this job? How do you get in this position? What do you like the most about working at X company? What are you the most proud of that you've accomplished with your team? Or what makes you proud to work here? Things like that really get, you get to understand the brand or, the interviewer really on a human level to understand if it's also a good fit for you.
Amazing. Love it. Thanks, Erica. I think in my Brock interview when I got started here, I think I asked the question to the panel, and that was, what keeps you coming back to Brock with us, hopefully with a smile on your face every day? And so that got a few smiles, and here I am today. So that worked out well. All right. Before we get to the last question, I want to now actually open up to the to our students and any other guests that have joined us. Feel free to turn the camera on, unmute yourself, and ask a question. I like that we have a little bit of a smaller, intimate crowd. So hopefully there's a couple of questions. If not, I may be that bad guy and pick on somebody. But I'll open the floor up now. And I'm doing the Jeopardy song in my head, and once that finishes, oh, awesome. Okay, I didn't have to be the bad guy. Zeal or Ziel, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, but feel free to turn your camera on and ask away.
Hi, I'm Zia. So I had a question like Erica, you said that at co-op level, you are not expected to know everything about your role and your position. So like I was wondering that so for example, I am particularly interested in climate change adaptation, and I want to pursue that as a career. So as of now, I have a knowledge about that and the role of coordinator and the people who work in that area, but I don't actually have experience in that particular area. But I would want to apply for my co-op position in that area. So like, should I do that, or like what should I do? Like, I'm confused. I have the knowledge, but I don't know if I have everything that it takes to be there. Like, I want to do it, but at this level, I don't think I have everything that it takes. Like,
yeah, no, that's a great question. I can feel your passion when you're talking about climate change adaptation, and I definitely think you should go for it if you have the knowledge. Absolutely. I think it's important to remember that you're applying for a co-op, and they know that you're a student, you're still learning, you're not expected to know everything. Even when you're applying for a full-time job, they don't expect you to know every detail about the industry, right? They know that you're there to learn, especially as a co-op student. And I think, demonstrating the knowledge that you've gained and how you gain that knowledge, whether it's in your cover letter, if companies are still doing that, I know some aren't, but if some are, definitely demonstrate it in the cover letter. And you can also, I'm sure, work with the co-op office to weave it into your resume. And I would say also, I'm not sure which program you're in at Brock, but I know that Dr. Jessica Blythe taught, when I was at Brock, taught a climate change adaptation course. So not sure if you're taking that or you're interested in that, but she would be someone that would be really great to learn from, and might even point you to helpful books that you could, weave into potential interviews and talk about how you have a passion for climate change adaptation, and you took that passion and, took it upon yourself to learn more through reading this piece of literature and meeting with these people. So I definitely think you should go for it. Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
The one thing I'd also add is, again, I mean, you're passionate about it, go for it. If you're able to reach out to people that are in the industry in those roles, I would, if you're able to, and if you're good with it, reach out to them. Hey, can we just have a quick conversation? I want to learn a little bit more about your role and what you do. And again, it's not because you want to take their position or anything, but you want to learn from them in terms of what they're doing in that role and how you can get to that, right? Because that individual has been in your shoes,
Yeah.
right? So if you're able to learn from them and other people that have gone through it, it will help you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you both, and thanks for the question, Zeal. And seeing how that's, I would say, a bit of a niche area of expertise, I think, and I'm hoping here that when you do make those reach outs on LinkedIn or other avenues, that because it's such a niche area and the passion is high, I think you'll have people that will jump to help versus, if this was accounting where, the market is flooded, maybe there's just no time. But for here, something like this where, you know, there's clearly a passion and a very niche program, I'd be surprised if you didn't get folks responding to your inquiries. I also put in the chat, you know, emphasizing any project or research work you've done that can almost act like a job, but at least you can speak to it from a practical point of view. And volunteering, you know, whether it's you finding a volunteer opportunity through your professors, again through mining LinkedIn and connecting with other industry professionals, even that volunteer experience, no matter how short it is, shows again your desire, your will, and the time that you are willing to put in to grow your career. So thank you. Great question.
Thank you so much.
We've got a few minutes left. I'd love to hear from somebody else, whether one of our students with a question or a comment or anything that was maybe unclear from Ben and Erica that you need more clarification on. And yes, I will pick someone, just like back in grade 4 when, you know, no one's talking. Evan, I'm going to pick on you a little bit just because I saw you in the hallway the other day. Anything that you need more clarification on, or a question that you might have, anything that pops up with you?
Yeah, I just want to thank you. You can hear me, yeah?
You're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Sometimes the audio on my computer is really messed up. But I think it's great to hear from you too. I'm just in my first year of Master of Sustainability, and just like putting it out there, my interest is like climate denial. So I'm just thinking of career paths right now. I don't necessarily know what I want to do, but the interview process is something that I'm not pretty well versed in. So you might have touched on it during the presentation, I might have just missed it. But any tips and tricks to make you stand out as a candidate, either like probably in the interview process?
I think researching, like, again, going back to it, just researching the company, understanding the role, what you're going for. Again, this might be sort of that first career move for yourself. Nothing wrong with that. And the interview, the person on the other side of that knows that. But for me, it's kind of having that passion come out and being prepared, right? And I think Erica had mentioned it. It's more of a conversation. If you're going in there as a conversation, it makes things a lot easier. Again, it's you and another individual or another couple of individuals just having a general conversation about a role. It's exactly what it is. If you go in with that mindset, have all that information ready, be prepared, then you'll be successful. And if it doesn't work out, it's not a problem, because you've now made connections with a couple of other individuals that maybe, you know, something else might come up down the road, maybe a month, 2 later, they may reach out to you because something else has come up.
Yeah, completely agree with that advice. And I would say also, kind of building on the, you know, the conversation aspect of an interview, kind of try to see it as a relationship building moment as well with the hiring manager. As I said, hiring managers want their job to be easy. They want to find that perfect candidate. They want to be able to bring someone great on their team. Something that I've heard, I haven't actually tried this myself because I had gotten my job at this point, but I have heard something that works really well for people is, you know, when you start the interview, you know, you'll ask, or they'll ask you first, depending on how it works, you know, how are you doing today? Something like that, very simple. And instead of just saying, good, how are you? I've heard it really helps to start building that relationship, or to start to get them to know you better by saying, oh, I'm doing well, thank you. I went out for a great walk this morning with my dog, blah, blah, blah. Just a little bit of, you know, not telling a whole story, but a little bit about who you are, instead of just saying, good, how are you? Saying a little bit more that kind of shows them maybe, you know, your interests outside of your career, let's say. And then that opens up the conversation when you say, how about you? And then, you know, they'll say maybe how they spent their morning or their afternoon or something like that. I know it sounds kind of small, but it is something that will make them remember you. Like, oh, okay, you're right. That was Evan, the person who walked their dog this morning, or something like that. It just gives them something to kind of anchor that relationship. So that's a tip that I haven't tried, but I have heard works very well.
Thanks, Erica. Sorry, Evan, did you have another question?
I want to say thank you both.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Sorry to put you in the spot, but I'm glad you jumped in, because again, these are questions that I'm sure all students have burning in the back of their mind. And Erica had a great example there, and doing something simple like that with explaining how, yeah, I'm good and here's why I'm good, breaks a bit of tension that might be, or some nervous energy that might be floating around the room, all in an instant that's broken. This has worked for me. Again, it's all situational, but you're sitting in front of one or two people, and there's you're in someone's office perhaps, and there's something on their desk that catches your eye, maybe a mini Stanley Cup of the Montreal Canadiens, and oh, didn't know you're a Montreal fan. I'm not, but hey, they got a great team, or I'm a hockey fan too, right? Just something to kind of humanize you, versus being, Evan, number 10, the number 10 resume that I'm picking up today, right? It just kind of gives you that shows that human side right away. So thanks for the question, Evan. And sorry to put you on the spot. Marilyn, please jump in.
I just wanted to add to, that thinking like longer term around this networking piece and getting to know people in the field, I think it's really important to maintain those relationships.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Something
Yeah,
happened there.
You cut out there for a quick second
Yeah.
there. If you can just repeat that.
I think it's just important to maintain those relationships and know that, people come in and out of your kind of career and your journey that may play a role down the line, right? So always also thinking about that piece, or you may play a role for them. You may be able to reciprocate 10 years later for a position. So remember that too, that people will come in and out of your world along the way, and that you often won't stay in the same exact position for a lifetime, even as professors, where, we typically, you get a position at Brock, for example, it's not common to institution jump. So you'll see academics stay at the same institution, but I myself changed my career trajectory in that I moved from one home unit, geography and tourism studies, to a research center. And that was to follow my passion in sustainability science, right? As my research kind of transitioned from environmental studies to sustainability science. So, that's something that's constantly evolving. So I think it's really healthy to keep that in mind, that, there'll come a point where some of those people will either need to lean on you, or, they can help you kind of move through your career. So I just add that as another piece. That
Thank you,
journey is kind of evolving over time, and it's not a one-time thing.
Absolutely, yeah. No, well said. The journey is evolving. Just a last piece on interviewing. For our students on the call and everyone on the call, we all hate being rejected or not being selected as a preferred candidate. It's happened to all of us, and it will happen as the future goes. But I will say, try to take those experiences as not a black hole or a black mark, but rather, what, I just made a point of contact with this company. I made it to the final interview stage. Let me add them on LinkedIn. Let me stay in touch, because you never know. And from personal experience, I've been told I'm the number 2 candidate, a couple of times, and yes, it stings. However, in one of those instances, the company called me back a year later to say, hey, listen, I know we didn't hire you for this role because someone with just a bit more experience beat you out, but we have this opportunity. Are you interested? Right? And so keep that positive frame of mind, with you at all times. With it just being 12 o'clock, with respect to the time and to our guest speakers' time, I want to just close. But before I close, I want to have Eric and Brandon have the last words here. And I want them to share a quote, piece of advice, words of wisdom, anything they maybe come across in the past that they've carried with them throughout their career, and or a piece of literature or a book or a must read, a must watch that you can share with our students as they navigate their career journey.
So I'll leave you guys with a little story, and I have a kid. He's 12 years old, and I don't know if anyone's got kids out there yet, but at some point, hopefully you will, or if not, it's okay. But you learn a lot from kids because they're very innocent, and you learn a lot. So here's a little story. So when my kid was probably 3, 4 years old, he's standing at the bathroom sink and he's got his hands underneath the faucet and he's just holding his hands there. And I'm like, what are you doing, bud? He's like, oh, I'm waiting for the water to come out. And I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm like, okay, so this is how you do it. You got to turn it on. So the moral of the story is if you want something, you've got to put the work in to get it, right? And really, at the end of the day, don't be scared to go out there, put yourself out there. And you'll learn from your experiences. You may not make the right decision every time. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just keep moving forward.
Thank you, Brandon. Well said, my friend. Erica, over to you.
Yes, I love that advice. That's really great. I will say, I know, Ryan, you mentioned briefly rejection. I did definitely experience that. Of course, my year at Brock, we were just entering the pandemic, so very interesting time. Every graduating class will have their thing that happens, whether it's a global pandemic, the economy, whatever. So I would say that general advice is to see. And something I didn't tell myself at the time, but I wish I did, was rejection is redirection. And that is something that I can't remember where I heard it, but I think about it all the time because it's so true. If you try and try and try, for example, like me, I wanted to work in the grocery industry so badly. It didn't work out for me, but it redirected me somewhere else. I broadened my search. And to be honest, I think I potentially even happier than I would have been in those other roles that I wanted so badly. So it brought me to something completely different. But at the same time, now in my role, I actually work with grocery stores like Metro and Longo's in Toronto. And it's really cool to have that full circle moment. So definitely rejection is redirection. It's easy to get down on yourself, but if you can see it as a redirection for a new path or a different company, different industry, whatever it is, that's super helpful. And lastly, just a very practical piece of advice, which I also didn't know at the time, but it's super helpful, is that if you get a library card, I did it in Toronto, you could also do it in St. Catharines, I looked it up. So free library card at the St. Catharines Library, let's say, you actually get free access to LinkedIn Learning through your library login. So do a quick Google, St. Catharines Library, LinkedIn Learning, totally free, thousands of courses, an amazing way to learn more about, let's say, climate change adaptation. They might have courses specifically on that, which you can bring into your interviews and show that you have done, additional learning on certain topics to show that you're a lifelong learner. I think that's also really important.
Awesome.
And good luck.
Thanks, Erica. I'm going to steal that best practice. And yeah, got to turn the faucet on to make things happen, right? I like that. Okay, with that, again, I want to thank Brandon and Erica for their time and expertise and advice this morning. Thanks to our students, and thank you, Marilyn, for your time and attention, and thanks for the questions. Again, I hope it was a fruitful session. It will be recorded so we can share it with those who missed out this morning. But again, a heartfelt thanks from the co-op team at Brock. These sessions certainly help with that career development, confidence, guidance, all of that is looped in together. So again, I appreciate both of your time this morning and wish everyone a great day, and go Canada Go at 2:00 today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. And don't hesitate to
Thank you
add
so
on
much.
LinkedIn if you ever want to connect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.